On April 4, 1968, the Reverend Samuel B. Kyles was with Martin Luther King Jr. in Memphis, Tennessee, to support African American sanitation workers in their strike for better working conditions and equal pay with white workers. A member of King's inner circle of ministerial advisors, the night before, Keyes had seen King deliver his famous "I have been" to the mountaintop speech at Mason Temple.
The question is, if I do not stop to help the sanitation workers, what will happen to them? That's the question.
And on the evening of April 4, was set to host a dinner for King and others at his Memphis home. But just after 6 p.m., as King, Kyles, and other civil rights leaders were standing on the balcony outside room 306 of the Lorraine Motel, a shot rang out that would change the course of history. Reverend Kyles shares his eyewitness experience of that fateful night.
I had the privilege of spending the last hour of his life on earth. The sanitation strike brought him to Memphis. And what was so unusual, what these guys did, I mean, it was phenomenal. They're the lowest persons on the economic ladder. They're the lowest persons on the educational ladder. And yet they stood up to the man. And Martin said, oh yeah, we got to go help them. He never considered not coming to Memphis. And never occurred to him that it was too dangerous. There were so many death threats against his life. He just said, don't tell me about him anymore. He said, we've got to go to Memphis. The staff said, we're behind, we need to get going so we can get to the Poor People's Campaign. That's the only bit of hesitancy that he was going through. An order went out. I can't tell you who did it, who gave the order, but Martin Luther King is not to reach Washington under any condition. And we'll pay as much as $50,000. I stood on the balcony. He stood here and I stood here. When I turned to go down the steps, Abernathy was still in the room. I got about 5 steps and the shot rang out. Kapow! I looked back. He had been knocked from the railing back onto the floor. And there was blood gushing from his wound in his face. I ran in the room to call an ambulance. I ran back outside. The police were coming. I hollered to them, call an ambulance on your police radio. Dr. King has been shot. And the police said, where did the shot come from? So there is a famous picture Ernest Withers took where everybody's pointing, well, 3 or 4 of us pointing to the building across the street. That's the very night of the assassination. This is Abernathy. Martin wanted him to be president if anything should happen to Martin. There I am. That's Ben Hooks, Hosea Williams, Bernard Lee, Andy Young. Andy Young is here. Abernathy said, we will support the Poor People's Campaign and we will support the sanitation workers. Those were the 3 decisions that were made.